The Congolese military has been reinforcing in the eastern town of Beni, but the protests and the shooting continue. Al Jazeera's Alan Okani gave this graphic update of the chaos.
We are under heavy gunshot around the city of Beni after heavy rain here. These protesters, they did not discourage. They came back again after the rain. They have killed a police officer, and his body was even sabotaged by the protesters under the rain on the main boulevard of Beni here. It's a big challenge for soldiers right now to face these young boys.
These people are marching on a UN peacekeepers base, furious at what they see as the failure of UN forces to protect them against attacks by rebel groups, including the so-called Allied Democratic Forces. Determined to kick the mission out, protesters have already damaged a number of UN buildings since protests started a little over a week ago. The Congolese army has been sent to end the violence but has failed to stop the ADF killing more than 100 people in the last month and more than 1,500 in the last 5 years. Now they're ordering the public off the streets, insisting they and the UN are on their side.
We're calling on the population and all members of society in North Kivu province to stop working with our enemy. The population should not forget about the real enemy. The police is not the enemy. DRC soldiers are not the enemy. The UN is not the enemy. The real enemy is the ADF rebels.
But on Monday alone, 4 protesters and a policeman died. The violence in Beni is now hampering efforts to contain an Ebola outbreak that's killed more than 2,000 people in the Democratic Republic of Congo since August.
The militarization of the medical response in parts has further increased distrust in an area where government troops and sometimes UN peacekeepers are not always seen as positive forces by everyone.
And now the World Health Organization has been forced to scale down operations in the area. Sarah Khairat, Al Jazeera.
Well, Adam Day is the head of programmes at the UN University Centre for Policy Research and was previously a senior advisor to UN MONUSCO. He says that a large factor in the UN's failure to achieve peace has been the lack of contact with the Allied Democratic Forces, one of the main rebel groups.
They are one of the most secretive and difficult to contact groups. When I was living there, we had lines of communication open, I'd say, with every other major group except the ADF, and they have really kept themselves sequestered from contact, which makes obviously a non-military approach more difficult. The second aspect is that the ADF is not just a military group. They're deeply embedded in the social fabric of much of the Beni area. They participate in some of the land and natural resources disputes. Some of them wear many hats, and they're difficult to discern, as you heard from the spokesperson mentioning that they were within the population. That's very much the case. And certainly during my time there, we never opened a line of political communication with their leadership. It was never a real option, and that's one of the real difficulties with this group, but one which I think can be dealt with by looking more at the communities and at the community level and less at targeting them just militarily, but seeing if you can address the underlying disputes that may be generating some of the communities going to the ADF for support.